Hey guys, and welcome to another episode. Today in this video, I'm going to show you the new front mount intercooler that I have on the Mini and all the piping for it. I'm going to be showing you guys today how to install it all on your Mini Cooper that you all have, right? Right. Now, if you guys saw my previous video, I showed you what is an intercooler and what does it do. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to install the brand new big Alta intercooler on the Mini. So I already took all of that stuff off, and if you can see right here, there's not much. It's a pretty simple card. The piping, which is in there, and the intercooler that goes across there, along with the other piping, is all gone. There's nothing attached to the turbocharger, and I don't have my intake manifold installed. Now that's because all of the piping, all of the nice silicone piping with the nylon reinforcement on the inside is all going to be installed today on here. So if you can tell right here, these blue ones are for my coolant, and all these red ones are for the intake system of the car. So right here I have my OEM intercooler and the OEM piping that went with it. Behind it I have the new Alta intercooler and the better silicone piping to go along with it. So this is going to be mounted on the front of my car along with the extra little piping that I have right here that attaches to my intake manifold. And all of this is attached right here to this part of the intake. So this piece, I'm just gonna lie this down, that piece right there attaches on the cold side right there of the intercooler. So this end goes in there, and then this piece comes up and across my motor from down in there up. It squeezes itself in there and it comes back here to the intake manifold. So today I'm going to show you how to install all of this on your car. I'm super pumped. Stay tuned. So this piping that I have right here, all of this is post intercooler. So this is all found on the cold side. So this is from where that cold tube was. So from the end of there begins this. We come up, and this is like where all of the intake manifold and all that piping goes. So from here we have our mass airflow sensor. We have this pipe that goes over top, which replaces this one. So that's now gone. We don't need that one anymore. There's this coupler that brings this piece and this piece together. So this slides over top, and then this little clip pushes in and it secures over top of that little ridge. There's one on this side and another one found on the other side. That goes there like that. Then we have this elbow right here, and this connects from this piece to the intake manifold. Now from there, we have that little piece that we saw from before, which is this. So this connects onto there like that, and there's gonna be a clamp that attaches to it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and connect all of these together except for this one, because I'm gonna be installing this one last once this is all on the car. So this is essentially what this piece looks like. So we've got the one hard piece on the left, we've got our flexible elbow, we've got the little coupler in the middle, and then we have our two other pipes from there. Now those black pieces up top we don't need, and then this entire piece, if I can grab it, essentially mounts up like this. So that goes in there, this comes around on the back side of the engine, and that right there is connected up to the turbo. So we're not gonna need this big piece yet. I'm gonna set this down, and then we're gonna get working on the intercooler. So we can set our OEM intercooler aside. We don't need this. That's done and over with. Now we're on to here. So this new Alta intercooler, what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna mount this up, first the intercooler, and then we're gonna attach the pipes there and there. We're gonna attach those on the back side, and that's what's essentially gonna hold it in place. So we've got to feed two of our pipes. So from the cold side over here and the hot side down there, we're gonna have to feed them up behind here, behind the rad, just so that the pipe is gonna be able to be holding the intercooler in place. So we can disconnect this piece and then this one. Now if you can see here, we've got these two plugs, and these are not installed when we put this on the car. We need to take these out when we go ahead and install it. The only reason why these are on is for shipping, so that say nothing gets inside of there. So all you do is you pull out each one, and then they're good to go. So air can come in through one side and then out the other. So the way that this is gonna work is it's gonna be tucked in right here behind the bumper bar, and One sec, I'll have to disconnect that piece. And then essentially just mounts up behind here, like that. And you can see that the piping is going to be on this side. This is the cold side, and this is our hot side. So it's essentially going to be mounted up just like that. So here we are installing the hot side piping for the intercooler. So essentially we're just sliding this down so that if you can see down here, there's our clamp, and up here it connects up to the turbo. So from up here, this is what we see. We're just sliding the piping right there for our turbocharger. So that right there is going to be, so this right here is the intake where it goes into the turbo, and from there it comes down here to the bottom, which is down in there, and that is for the turbocharger. So this right here is the intake part for the intercooler that's going to sit down here. Okay, so here comes the fun part. So I need to single-handedly get the intercooler, slide it up into place, and then line up both of these couplers so that the little end on here, so see this little rib? So that the pipe goes over top, and then I can clamp I can put the clamp over on this section where it's past here. That way that once I put some tension on here, once the car goes into boost, this isn't gonna slide off because there's this little ridge holding it in place. So here we go, let's see what I can do. Oh, it's actually not that bad. This one might be a little interesting. So from the looks of it, the passenger side of the car, so this side is lining up nicely, but this side down here, I gotta figure out a way to pull the hose a little bit more forward to get this hooked up. Working on a vehicle that comes with the biggest motor, the most amount of options and everything is going to be fairly difficult regardless of the car. So say you have a V6 Accord, you're going to have less engine space than say a 2.4 liter, which is the one that I have. The same thing goes for the Mini. Because this is the Mini Cooper JCW, this comes turbocharged, and there's not a lot of clearance, to work with. So say there's not a lot of room between here and here or here and here. Everything is very cram-packed and jammed together. Now, what that means is that installing anything, modifying anything, replacing whatever is going to be rather extensive. You're going to have to take out a lot of parts to get to something. So like even for an oil change for my car, see this, the coolant container, the expansion tank? You have to remove that, push it out of the way to get to the oil filter, which is down there. It's, it's a little bit more complicated and a little unnecessary, but it's the price you pay for more power, more luxury, more whatever it be. So what I'm getting to is that for this intercooler, there's not a lot of space to get access to the clamps on both the hot side or the cold side of the intercooler. So what I had to do is I had to go from underneath with a Dremel, and I had to hollow out a little area so I was able to push each one of the hoses onto the intercooler, attach it on the intercooler, attach each one of those little clamps on there as well, and then be able to tighten it up. So right now, the intercooler is attached, it's in place on both ends, and you can see that the intercooler is actually touching this bar right here. And that's because it's not utilizing the little bolts that were used for the OEM intercooler. So the OEM one right here, you can see there's two little spots. One there and one there. Those two little things are spots for that screw to go into, which is securing the intercooler up to the frame of the car. So right now, if I push on the intercooler, you can't really tell that well, but it's actually moving a little bit forwards and backwards. So in the kit for the intercooler, I've got to install this little weather stripping part right here. And this little piece has a metal V found directly above my thumb and a squishy part right there. So the metal part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it on here, so on this part, with the foam squishy part facing on the inside, so that the intercooler isn't going to be banging off of here and it's going to be metal on metal. Now, it's going to be very simple. It's not really that complicated, but it's just an extra step to do when working with the front mount intercooler. Clearance is going to be an issue, so just take that into consideration if you want to upgrade your car with an FMIC. So I've got to line up my strip so it's centered between here, so that I've got the foam part pushing on, well, the entire intercooler. So should it come here and come in contact, it's not going to be getting metal on metal. So There's gonna be a little bit of overhang on each end, which means that, say if that's where it goes, you just push that up and work your way down to the other side. So now moving towards the back of the engine where we're gonna finish up with the intake system, we're gonna have more piping coming over here, tucking down, and it's gonna be mounted on the side of the intake manifold. Now the intake manifold needs to be mounted up, and there's 5 studs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 that need to be inserted, or actually the intake manifold needs to be slid onto each one of those studs and then tightened up with these nuts. Now once that's on, we can then continue to install the piping. So the piping needs to go on after the intake manifold is installed. Otherwise you're gonna have a difficult time sliding this over top of here and then this piece over here onto the intake manifold. So let's get right into it. So the intake manifold just slides right over top of all of this. And then you can grab your 13mm socket with a ratchet and tighten up each one of the 5 nuts that we removed earlier. Now after the intake manifold is hooked up and essentially mounted up to the block, you want to make sure you connect the throttle body and everything. So any electronics that are hooked up to the intake manifold, you want to make sure that those are properly connected. From there, we're going to go ahead and install the tubing that we have right here that attaches the intake manifold to the intercooler piping found right here. Now to install this final piece onto the intake manifold and to the intercooler piping, we're gonna have to disconnect the top portion of here, just disconnect it like that. And we're gonna have to install this bottom coupler piece first. So we're gonna leave that, set it aside, and we're gonna attach this bottom piece, tighten it up with a screw, found right here for the clamp. Now the tube down here that goes to the intake manifold is attached. I just attached this part right here and I did not go ahead and install this piece yet. And that's because of this other piece that needs to be installed after I go ahead and install this. So this piece right here connects underneath the intake manifold, clips into the back part of the firewall, and there's a bolt going through it on the intake manifold itself. So like that, it clips in, like so. This needs to be tightened up, and then at this point, because I'm gonna have to know which angle this pipe goes to, so whether it be this, or this, I'm not gonna install this yet. So tighten this up, then go ahead and install this entire piece in one shot. So that's the reason why I didn't attach the entire intercooler side, the cold side, all in one shot, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to figure out which way this pipe went. So next up, this piece goes in, and it's sandwiched in between those 2 pipes. Now the red piece that's attached to here goes underneath that bolt, around, and connects to here. So this all needs to be installed, this needs to be installed in one shot. So I've got to align the red tube so it's facing there, and align it so that it'll be able to be slid in between these 2 pipes. And if you can tell on the bottom, there's a clamp that I need to tighten up, and on the top part, it's slightly different. So on the top part, it's attached by that little metal spring. So once you push it forward, it holds it in place. So it's very crucial that none of these clamps are tightened up right now, just to make it easier for the installation. So there's that clamp, and then this one. Now next up, we need to install the intake box back on. So we've got this base over here that attaches to the bottom side of the intake manifold. It's connected in 4 corners, and then there's a screw over here that needs to be set in. And to do that, to set that screw in, you need a T25 Torx. And then from there, we're gonna install our cold air intake over top of this. So the cold air intake is attached to the hood. In one of the previous videos, I showed you guys how to install that, and I'll have a link for that in the description if you guys want. You guys can check that out and see how we did that. Now we utilized the OEM bottom part of the box right here, and then we attached our cold air side, so our new intake, like this over top of it. Now it's very simple, very easy plug and play system. So what we did is we removed these screws, also T25 Torxes on the top of the box. We had to take these out to install the new one. And if you can see this hose right here, that's for a vacuum hose. That's for our PCV system. Take all that out. And set that aside, and we can put our intake over top. So the intake needs to slide into each one of these grooves on the back and then be screwed in at the front. So it looks something like this once we're done with it. So next up for the install, we need to install this pipe right here that attaches the intake up to the turbo. So there's a little rubber gasket that goes over top of the turbo. And from here, you can see that we've got this pipe to attach. Now this right here is a stock Mini Cooper S pipe. Now there's an upgraded John Cooper Works pipe, and I figured since I'm gonna be completely upgrading the intake system on the Mini, why not get the best pipe for here? So this piping is a lot nicer, it's less restrictive, and it slides on just like the OEM one. So it actually comes with a new gasket, so I can take this little rubber ring off. Attach that on there, attach this onto here, and then use the two OEM clamps that were on the other pipe and attach them in place. Clamp 1, clamp 2 are on. Now I've just got to push this back, slide that intake piece over top, and from the looks of it, once I tighten up these two clamps and hook this piece up, we're done. Now most importantly, once you have everything essentially secured up, you want to double check any of the electrical connections like this. You want to make sure that everything is connected, everything is tight, everything is snug so that you're not going to have any leaks or any problems. And especially when you turn on the car, you're not going to have any check engine lights. So with all of this done, we can finally go ahead and turn the Mini on and take a look at how awesome the intercooler works, how much more noise we get from it, and how much more power we can actually get from the engine. Now, would I say that this job is a very difficult install? Well, yes and no. It's on more of the advanced side of installing stuff on the car because you're taking a lot of stuff off. If you can tell, I've got my fender liners out, my bumper out. Everything on the front end, other than motor, came out. So I had to take out a lot of stuff to get access to both the intercooler, all of the piping, the intake manifold, the throttle body, the wiring, all that stuff. So if you guys are new with this, don't get intimidated. My advice to you is, jump right in, take pictures before and after so you guys have an idea as to what everything is supposed to look like and how it looks like afterwards. If there's any wires that you messed up or any problems that you'll have, if you take a look at the before pictures, you're not gonna have any problems. If you guys wanna check out any of the stuff that I bought today for the Mini, you guys can check the description box. If you guys have one, you guys can pick up the exact same things that I have. As for the procedure, it's pretty self-explanatory and straightforward. Any kind of car that you have, either supercharged or turbocharged that has an intercooler, it all can be replaced in the exact same way. You're taking out the small stuff, replacing it with bigger stuff, more bulky stuff, stronger stuff, so that when you go to the track, your stuff is not gonna break on you. You've got the best parts and your car is gonna be absolutely murdering lap times at the track. So if you guys have any questions regarding the video, throw them down in the comments section below and I'd be more than happy to help. Again guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.